I am Sully, this is Pocket Edition Episode 4, and today I'm joined by review team lead Max and Machin, who is kind of a roaming free agent at the moment at GameCast. What has been going on, guys?
Not much, man. Just Destiny 2, Destiny 2, Destiny 2.
Fabulous.
Lots and lots of it.
Love it.
Just recorded the discussion with Wesley for First Impressions a little bit ago so that we could get something out before the raid, because I don't want to have the review out until after the raid, because I like to actually play the whole game before getting a review out on it.
That makes complete sense. Fabulous. What about you, Machin? What have you been up to?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of working on reworking my channel a little bit, and my personal channel, and obviously I'm working on bringing up some stuff maybe for GameCast later if everything goes right and we get that set up. But some things on my personal channel, I'm looking at changing my format around. I'm also looking to do some more opinionated pieces here and there, more podcast-like things.
You're going to copy me, are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna be Machin's opinions now.
It's the most sincere form of flattery.
Yeah, definitely. So what like, in terms of opinion content, like what kind of shape or form would that take? Is it a podcast or short videos like I was doing on my channel? What aspects of the industry will you be covering, if you've gotten that far yet?
I think it's going to be more like a mini cast rather than like a short episode, but more like a podcast but short, just by myself though. And it's going to be on a range of things. I know one thing I've been planning on doing is having a big chat about Bethesda and why they are the way they are.
That's a heavy one to start with.
My opinions and feelings. Yeah, I know, but I have a lot of opinions about it and a lot to say.
Well, the first thing I found with my channel when I started was I thought I had plenty of opinions and so many things I wanted to talk about, but I found after the first month or two, I'd covered all the big points that I ever wanted to cover. So you get left in the space of, oh, okay, well, you just becomes this endless kind of searching game for what am I talking about next. But it's kind of funny. Like, it was a bit of a rut and a bit of a lull, but it kind of forces you to kind of redefine a little bit and actually stretch your brain and, what's actually happening in the industry beyond, what I immediately care about.
Right.
Well, I haven't been up to much. I was actually playing Dreadnought before we jumped on. And yes, I know I was about half an hour late, but I swear that's not due to Dreadnought. My Time Buddy app has gone up shit creek, but it's really good. Dreadnought's really good. I'm really keen to jump into some more. I want to give it a crack.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really different. It's like I actually call it like similar to World of Tanks.
Yeah. Definitely.
I don't know. Apparently, they want it to be an esports game. I'm basing this on your impressions video review that you did last week. But it's got a very unique flavor, and I like the kind of slow positional vibe that it has going. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that game becomes after the beta.
It's free to play too, so you can download it if you want. It's in an open beta right now. I don't know if it's going to stay in beta and then release. I don't know exactly the release schedule they're doing with that, but at first I was kind of hesitant to suggest that it would be a good esports game, but as I got more into it, there's really a lot of layers and a lot you have to keep an eye on and just constantly maintain while you're playing it that I think could actually lead to different encounters every single time, making it engaging enough for esports. Balancing is a different issue. That, and it's 8v8? So that's kind of a lot for an esports team, which I mentioned in that video. So that's something that may hold it back a little bit unless they shorten the teams down for specific modes. But it's really cool so far. It's a fun game. I did not expect to like it as much as I did.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing more this afternoon because it is just the 2 matches I played. It is very fun. And like I said, it's just different and I'm enjoying the positional battles. But enough about Dreadnought. Max, why don't you open us up for the topic that we're covering today, which is the Olympics, funny enough.
Okay, so about a week and a half ago, the head of the International Olympic Committee, the president, Thomas Bach, I believe, B-A-C-H, kind of made an ignorant statement about esports being brought into the Olympics when asked if they'd be brought in maybe by 2020 or 2024. Because as we know, esports is a very, very fast-growing industry. It's massive right now, especially in the MOBA scene with games like Overwatch now are starting to really get into it. Halo, Call of Duty, all those games. Esports is massive now. And basically he came out and said, we want to promote non-discrimination, non-violence, and peace among people. Esports this doesn't match with video games, which are about violence, explosions, and killing. And there we have to draw a clear line. And you know what? I can see where he's coming from, especially with the beginning part of the statement. But when he goes on and says video games which are about violence, explosions, and killing, I feel like that's a bit ignorant, and I feel like that's coming more from people just saying that, just the stigma about video games in general, rather than something that he has come to this conclusion by himself with. And especially if you're the head of the Olympic Committee, I feel like you should kind of do your research before making a statement such as that. Especially esports is not really seen to be trifled with, it seems, anymore, because he pissed enough people off to where they had to come out and say that, while esports that mirror traditional sports like soccer or basketball could be considered, there's still, the chances are kind of low, but they're still considering it. And that makes sense, because games like Rocket League, I think, are perfect for the Olympics. That's already a huge game in the esports scene. But it's just, this really rubbed me the wrong way, because there are all sorts of video games that could fit into the Olympics that aren't violent, or even games that can be violent but aren't like gruesome or anything like that. Because I don't know, some of the sports in the Olympics are kind of violent, like boxing, for example, or wrestling.
They have taekwondo as well, and I think there's other fighting sports that they're looking to introduce in the coming years. It's an interesting statement, though. I mean, I can't say I necessarily fall on either side of the fence. I can kind of see where he's coming from in terms of violence or just needless violence. Like when you look at the big esport titles, they're all about shooting people in the head.
Yes.
Taekwondo, it's still a violent sport. And, if these guys went in a ring, they'd be using those skills to kill each other. Assuming he's actually looked at it and made his own decision, in a sense, I can kind of understand what he's saying. A lot of it is just blood and guts. But that is the nature of our esports scene. It does revolving around a lot of, competitive shooters. But I guess the question for me is, could we perhaps extract the essence of, Call of Duty and Halo, and other, Gears of War, any games that are very bloody and violent? Could we extract the core gameplay, tone down the violence a bit, and just have the pure mechanics like a CSGO or something like that? It's, it's not blood in your face or heads exploding. Splatoon 2. That's kind of my question. Another kind of pull-away statement that he made as well was his concern around the lack of regulations regarding doping. As we know, doping is huge in the Olympics. They have a lot of issues with it. When he looks at the esports scene, there's not a lot of regulations surrounding it. You can't look at any definitive body that regulates doping within the esports scene. So that's another big concern he has as well, which I don't think it's a case of he's concerned about them not having a body, because the Olympics actually have their own body, which is I believe they resort to WADA, who regulate all the testing within the Olympics wherever they're hosted. But I guess he's concerned about the potential culture that could be established in the esports scene already. So you could be, in a sense, opening up a can of worms for lots of guys coming over that just regularly dope. Do I think that's the case? Probably not. These guys are probably just hopped up on Red Bulls, and that's probably the end of the story. But from his perspective, I think, again, there's not a lot of research that's happened on the esports scene for him to be comfortable making a definitive statement. And he's probably grasping just at his general concerns in regards to bringing the esports scene into the Olympics.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can see a lot of that. Honestly, my opinions on it, like, I get where he's coming from. It's not a traditional sport per se, which is what a lot of people consider the Olympics to be more about, as traditional sports, track and field and basketball and all of the other sports that are taking place there. Yes, there's some things that may not seem as much as sports, but there's a lot that, are. If I had my way, would be more of an Olympics just for video gaming, for esports. So like a spring Olympics, because we already have winter Olympics for things like snowboarding and bobsledding and all of that. We've got that for the winter Olympics. So why not like a spring or a fall Olympics for something like that, so that you have a completely separate thing for that? It kind of divides it up nicely, because there's a lot of different types of esports that we could set up for an Olympic sport. We already have huge bodies for stuff like that. We have the fighting game tournament EVO, which is the largest fighting game tournament in the world. It's the World Championships, basically, that takes place every year. We've already got the World Championships for League of Legends, Dota, even for Overwatch, So all of these things, we could come up with that and make it into a body for its own Olympics if we wanted that to be included in the Olympics. I just think it would be a better way to do that. But I definitely agree that his statements were very ignorant on the matter, because in any of those games I just listed, none of them are considered overly violent. I mean, nobody dies in Overwatch when you kill them. They just respawn.
I actually agree. Like, I think when you look at the esports scene, it is very fractured. You know, there's a lot of different events that partake. Yes. Let's have our own Olympics. I think that'd be fantastic. However, I think the push for esports or video games to be in the Olympics is recognition. You know, we want to be recognized officially as a real sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Most definitely.
Now, another hang up I have with video games entering the sport, which is something that Buck mentioned, was continual iteration of video games. And he's specifically talking about, you know, your franchises like soccer, football, all of those sport titles. They reiterate every year. So it makes regulating the games for the Olympics, because the rules and the landscape within those games are constantly shifting. So it makes it hard to regulate those games as sports in the Olympics. Whereas you look at boxing, these sports have been around for decades. Same with soccer. The rules don't necessarily change, or if they do, it's very minor rule changes. Whereas the video game industry, it's constantly shifting and it's constantly evolving. Now, I actually personally think esports in some way, shape or form will 100% definitely make it into the Olympics. And that's purely down to this. The viewership for the Olympics in terms of age demographic, it's not attracting young audiences. So in a sense, the Olympics potentially, 20, 30 years will be dead. There's not going to be anybody watching it. It needs to evolve and grasp, new areas and mediums. It's about them transforming and staying relevant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting that you bring up, Sully. I believe it was the Dota 2 International that was shown on ESPN a while back. I believe it was Dota 2. If it wasn't that, it was like League or something. It was some MOBA. Was shown on ESPN, and actually they had a lot of people complain about it.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So that's kind of another thing that brings into your recognition type thing. I think, because Machen, you were saying, yeah, we could have our own Olympics for video games. And while that would be really cool, I don't even think that's necessarily necessary. Because as we were saying, the esports industry is huge. It's taken off. It's great. An Olympics would be cool. But like, it's also fine on its own with like each game having its own event and everything. This is more about recognition, about the very old stigma that video games are just terrible for you. That's a lot more what this is about than anything. Because I really don't think we need the Olympics.
No, we don't.
We're a multiple billion dollar industry.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's definitely more what it is about. It's just like, he says that and it's just kind of like, all right, dude, come on. Like you were saying, Sully, they need to kind of evolve with things. It's like, that's just a very old kind of mindset, in my opinion. It is very, I don't know if closed-minded is the right word, but it's just an old stigma that needs to die, in my opinion.
Again, I go back to, I don't think it necessarily comes down to him leaning one way or the other. He seems to begin with, this statement of, video games are violent, but he seems rather embracing the further he kind of, starts talking about it, recognizing sports games as entering the Olympics.
It would be kind of interesting to see Madden in the Olympics.
I feel like that would be kind of overkill. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if that would be needed.
I think so, too.
Like Rocket League would work because it's unique.
I would rather not see...
But
I don't want to see FIFA and PES and all that in the Olympics.
Yeah. The International Olympic Committee are actually investigating their own service to host the Olympics online as well, which I think that could help in terms of reaching a younger demographic. Because again, we're not watching free-to-air TV. If esports are streamed online through the Olympics, then we might actually check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd probably trend on Reddit.
That's the thing. I like the idea of the Olympics, and I used to watch it when I was younger, but I don't watch TV anymore. I would definitely watch it online, though.
Yeah, same.
If there was like an official stream, but like even at my apartment, I didn't have access to TV because we didn't want to pay for it because we didn't watch it. We have no reason to.
I mean, it's a case of we're gamers, we're invested in the gaming space online. And who has time to watch the Olympics as well? I'll tune in, I'll watch tennis and flick it off, and that's about it.
Yeah, everyone has like their few sports.
I honestly didn't watch any of the Olympics the last time it was on at all, except for like swimming, because Michael Phelps,
he is definitely an animal.
He's a monster.
That's ridiculous.
All right, guys, so closing thoughts on this?
I expect esports to be in the Olympics relatively soon-ish. I do think that while the statement was kind of a setback, I think you are right, Sully, that he is kind of more on the fence as well, even though I do think more of what he said was due to the backlash rather than him wanting to clarify. They say by 2024, He said that he did not rule out adding esports in time for the 2024 Olympics. And I think that that's a fair goal. I think that by then, the kind of stigma around games and that sort of stuff will definitely have progressed a lot more, and that we can almost guarantee that at least one game will be in the Olympics in terms of esports.
Closing thoughts, Machen?
Yeah, definitely piggybacking on what Max said, I definitely agree. I think we will be seeing them in the Olympics fairly soon. I know that there was talk from China recently about the next time that they host that it will for sure be in there because they wanted to host, I think, like Dota or something, one of the big MOBAs. So I do think it's coming. I still hold that I think if it ends up in the Olympics, eventually it'll end up as its own type of Olympic event as well. That's just what I personally think. And I would like to see that because I would actually tune into those Olympics.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess my kind of closing takeaway from all this is obviously I think, yes, video games will be in the Olympics one day, whether it's the next Olympics or the Olympics after that. I think it's definitely going to happen within the next decade. In terms of his kind of doping view, in terms of, I don't think that's an issue. You know, we have WADA for a reason.
Me neither.
These guys are the World Anti-Doping Agency. They're there for a reason. The Olympics use them for a reason. And, you know, in terms of esports or a video game sport entering the Olympics, it would just fall under WADA. There'd be no difference. All right, well, that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining me, Machen and Max.
Of course.
Please remember, if you've enjoyed this episode, to rate, comment, and subscribe. If you liked myself, Max, or Machen in particular, you can find our links down below in the description box. Or you can find them on the GameCast channel homepage, where you will also find a variety of video game content in the form of news, reviews, other podcasts, and opinion pieces. So check that out and let us know what you think. For this episode, though, it is a wrap, and we'll be seeing you in the next episode of Pocket Edition. Have a good one.